What's going on, everyone? So, the New Orleans Pelicans are expected to shop Zion Williamson. Kind of seem like they're going to potentially tear it down. It'll be interesting to see if they end up with the number one pick, get Cooper Flag, or who they get, like an Ace Bailey or something like that. But to still be kind of left to desire, right? And then also, now that Joe Dumars is at the helm, supposedly he wants to talk to Zion, see if he can kind of get through to Zion, have some conversations, and then kind of approach it from there, which, you should. Don't just try, see if, you can find a common ground, right? Because Zion Williamson, as a whole, as a player, he has all the tools and all the talent to be a top 5 guy in the league. Seriously, the biggest obstacle in Zion's way is Zion. If Zion could just get his body right, his health right, and get himself together, that guy could be leading you to an NBA championship. The guy has insane talent and upside. The guy is a monster on the basketball court, right? But again, it's just like you have all these hurdles. And I can imagine if you're the Pelicans, last thing you want is to trade him, and then he does figure it out, and then he does do that, and then he does become that, and he wins the championship, and you're like, But he also never wanted to be in New Orleans. That was abundantly clear from day one, and has been this trend from the beginning. He wanted to go to the Knicks. He wanted to be a Knick. Right now, I don't know if that is something that ends up happening, but nonetheless, there's teams that are very likely going to bid for him. He has non-guarantees every year, so he is a safe bet. It's just having to pick up the salary in order to acquire him, or trade out the salary that going to require him. And I do think it needs to be a team that can afford to take the chance. Right. And one of the teams that is supposedly has some interest, even at the trade deadline, there was reports that, hey, the Spurs might have some interest in Zion if he becomes available. It doesn't seem like it's interest in the sense of they're going to, if he's available, they're pushing all it's nothing like that. It's just kind of again seems, hey, right price, right situation. Maybe it's worth the gamble. Maybe it's worth the risk. And I think it is. Right? I think the Spurs are one of those teams that make a lot of sense for Zion as well as for that team. Zion needs to go to an organization that has the infrastructure to kind of get him right. And I do think the Spurs are one of those teams. They have the culture, they have the history, they have the pedigree, right? They have the organizational structure. You have vets and guys that can kind of help. Chris Paul, I would keep around, especially if you get Zion right, because I think Chris Paul is a guy that could really kind of get on him and kind of look, dude, you can be great, right? Pair him alongside Victor Wembanyama. Imagine Wemby and Zion. You'd have the best front court in the league for the next, 10. Zion's still only 24, right? Think about that. The guy's still only 24 years old, right? If you spent the next year just solely just getting him right, he'd still be 25 going into the following season. You're ready to go. Also, Wemby is dirt cheap. This upcoming season, he'll be $13 million, and then the following season, he'll be $16 million. And Zion isn't making $60+ million a year, right? So if you're a team like the Spurs, you can take the gamble, you can take the risk, right? And you have the tradable assets and salaries to make it work, right? You could do something like a Devin Vassell and a Harrison Barnes. Right? Obviously, you'd have to add some picks and some assets, but, you could do something like that. Hey, you're probably going to trade CJ McCollum. Here's a younger CJ McCollum and a Devin Vassell, right? Boom. And then here's a vet in Harrison Barnes, 3-and-D guy, expiring contract that you can look to flip in the offseason or at the trade deadline if you want to, right? Maybe you're working on a 3-team deal, give up a couple picks, assets. The Spurs could have 3 firsts in this draft alone. They're not going to keep all those firsts, right? So, and depending on how it shapes up, right now it's there's a lot of factors that still have to go into it, including a coin flip and all this other stuff. But essentially they'd have, right now it looks like the 8th pick, the 12th pick, and potentially the 14th pick, right? Even if you were to trade all 3 of those picks, right, for Zion, you still have all of your future. You still have everything, right? And now you have De'Aaron Fox, Zion, and Victor Wembanyama for the next 10 years, right? That's a great position to be in, right? Now, I do think Zion may benefit more from a more traditional playmaking point guard, right? Have a more traditional, a prime Chris Paul, I think would be great next to Zion. But I do think, you have the advantage with De'Aaron Fox and his abilities, right? I mean, imagine the transition with Fox and Zion just sprinting down the court, right? I do think that there are some advantages that you could really have there. I think the Spurs are in the position right now to where they can take the risk, right? And still, if it doesn't work out, be fine. Right? If it doesn't quite work out, you can just either look to trade him. Yeah, you're probably not going to get the return that you would look, or you can just let him go because it's non-guaranteed deals, right? And then just move on and just fill in or clear the salary space or whatever, and then just sign a guy, right? Like, so the Spurs, I think, would be in good shape regardless. You still have all your assets. You have everything that you could need, right? So you're not in a position where it's like, ooh, like if we take on Zion, giving up everything. To me, it boils down to, what is the price? What will it cost you to acquire him? Right? If you have to trade, Stephon Castle and, give up all the, 5 firsts and all this crap, then yeah, good luck, fairly well type thing, right? Like, but if it's something where, like I said, even if you had to give up the picks in this year's draft and like a Vassell and, Harrison Barnes, cool. Right? I think that would be fine. You bring that in, you bring Zion in. How many young guys are you going to keep bringing? Right? Obviously, if you get the number 1 pick and you get Cooper Flagg, then you go with Cooper Flagg, right? But if you don't, let's assume that it's like the 8th, or let's say they move up and it's the 7th. Let's say it's like the 7th, the 12th, and the 14th pick. The Spurs already traded the 8th pick last year, right? Like, you just traded for an all-star caliber, all-star point guard and De'Aaron Fox, who's 27 years old, right? Like, you really developing young guys for the next 5 years? Probably not, right? So as soon as you traded for, De'Aaron Fox, your timeline changed. So to me, like, at some point, you're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to take some gambles. I think Zion is a safe gamble, right? Because, again, he has the non-guarantee, so you're not stuck if it doesn't work. That's why I think it's safe. It just comes down to the cost that it would take in order to acquire him. And if that cost isn't too much and it's reasonable and fair, I think you make the move, right? You still have assets, you still have picks, right? Like, Devin Vassell was disappointing for them this season, but also you got Stephon Castle. My only concern would be the 3-point shooting, right? Because, like, let's say you go De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and then go get a 3-and-D wing this offseason, and then have Zion and Wemby, right? Your only real shooter, like, even if you got like a premier 3-and-D guy, right? Like, your only like real shooting is Wemby, and Wemby can be streaky. Right? You just don't have the 3-point shoot. That would be my only concern. But I think, if you have the opportunity to get Zion with Fox and Wemby, I think you do it. I think you take the chance. But as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Feel what are your thoughts? Agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So if you enjoy these types of videos, I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.